It's the black guy in the corner, but they'd rather see a nigga on the corner. They say I'm stealing Nick's clips like I'm stealing Nick's chick, not knowing that I hit him first week for the lick. I said, Nick, I could post here while you post there. Let's run the ads up, then let's meet up over there.
Good evening, everybody. You're watching America First. My name is Nicholas J. Fuentes. We have a great show for you tonight. Very excited to be back here with you tonight on Thursday. We have a lot to talk about, lots to get into. Big show. Oh, well. Yes. Our featured story tonight, we're talking all about the full, complete, total surrender. You see this morning? First thing this morning, our border czar, our based border czar, the medieval grug, Tom Homan, announced the complete and total withdrawal of ICE from Minneapolis. Decisive, utter defeat. It's over. Game over. No more deportations. It's done. And we're going to talk all about it. We'll get into it. I told you this was coming. I don't know who is exactly surprised by this information. We knew this back in January. As a matter of fact, we knew this in December. We were headed in this direction since at least December, which is to say that the administration was going to alter their policy. They had already been altering the rhetoric. They were going to shut down the mass deportations, the raids, the patrols, and they were going to switch it over to these precision deportations, targeted enforcement of criminal illegal aliens. We knew it when Renee Good was shot. We knew it when the other guy got shot, that this is where it would land. And now today, officially, Tom Homan in a press conference announced that their surge of ICE personnel and Border Patrol in Minneapolis is over. He said the operation is concluded and they are fully withdrawing. And honestly, what is the cope? Like, what's the cope now? What is the five-dimensional chess play? What's the strategy? For all of the plan trusters that are out there, all the pro-Trump people, what's the excuse? There is none. It's over. And we'll talk all about it tonight. I got to turn my phone off. I got people texting me. There's nothing that irritates me more than that. I'm in the middle of a show. 100 people texting me. So hard to stay focused. But we'll talk about all that. We'll get into it. Utter vindication on this one, too. Because this is exactly what I said would happen in 2024. We're just watching it play out in slow motion. So we'll talk all about that. We're also going to talk tonight about the defunding of Homeland Security, which looks like it will happen tomorrow. We were going to talk about this a couple weeks ago, and then I just never got into it because it's kind of boring. But Congress is supposed to pass this huge series of appropriations bills to fund a number of departments and agencies. They split it up. And the reason they did it is because the Democrats do not want to pass any funding for Homeland Security. Democrats are conditioning their support for funding Homeland Security upon this 10-point plan. They basically want a George Floyd ICE. They want a George Floyd Border Patrol and ICE. The Democrats are saying they will not give any money for Homeland Security unless the Republicans agree to this huge package of restrictions on how ICE can carry out their duties. And that includes things like body cameras and like a national guideline for rules of engagement. They got to get rid of the masks. Bunch of different things that will basically reduce the effectiveness of ICE as they carry out the deportations. Republicans are giving some concessions, but it's not enough. And so now we're hurtling towards a partial government shutdown. It will only affect Homeland Security. And even within Homeland Security, it will not affect ICE or Border Patrol, ironically enough. It's only going to affect the Coast Guard, the TSA, the other agencies within Homeland Security, and that will be shut down until there can be some agreement on how we're going to deal with ICE, how the Republicans are going to restrain ICE and their ability to do their duty. So if we have time, we'll talk about that too. Should be a pretty good show, although I got to admit, it's kind of a slow news day. It's been a very slow week. There's like nothing going on. Content drought. I'm bored. Don't you feel that way? I mean, we are really in the thick of it here. We're second year into the second Trump administration. Winter, it's like the worst 2 months of the year, January and February. By far, in my opinion, the worst 2 months of the year. I feel like there's nothing going on. I was going to cancel the show because I'm like, there's literally nothing to talk about. But I had to do the show because I need to do a victory lap about ICE. I just have to. I don't know. I almost am tired of doing it because I've just done it so many times at this point and we've been doing it to death. But I just really want to drive it home. I really want to drive the point home for all these people that I was so right and they were so wrong and they couldn't have been more wrong. And at this point in time, we just have to make them feel bad. We have to demoralize them. And that's honestly why I do it. That's why I do the show. That's why I do shows like this. It is to demoralize. And some of them say that like it's a bad thing, like they figured me out. They're like, he doesn't want you to know that he's running a demoralization campaign. No, I do want you to know. That's exactly what I'm doing. I am intentionally and self-consciously and willfully demoralizing you. And I'm doing it consistently and habitually over time in a concerted effort to make you feel bad because you need to feel bad. Everybody that voted for this needs to feel bad. You need to feel worse than you feel. You should be embarrassed and you should feel despair. I want you to feel despair. You need to feel hopeless. And I'm going to tell you why. Because if you don't, and if you don't feel bad, I'm not doing my job. If you don't feel despair, you're going to do it all over again in 2028. So people say, are you doing this because you want to help the Democrats? You're a secret liberal. You're a secret Democrat. This is why. Because if I don't absolutely impress upon you how hopeless you need to be, if I don't make you feel despair, you and your shithead idiot family and friends, you're going to do it all over again in 2028. Okay, bookmark this. Screenshot this post, save it in your camera roll, and put a keyword on it so you can AI search it in 3 years. Mark my words. These people that are still trusting the plan, these people that are still coping and shilling, these people that are still meat riding Trump, giggling and slipping it back in, reverse cowgirl on Trump, mark my words. The only reason they are doing it now is because they are preparing you. They are getting you ready for 2-3 years from now when they are going to try to foist J.D. Vance upon you. And we're going to do it all over again. We're going to play the same game. So remember in 2024, when I told everybody, don't vote, follow the money. We're getting a war with Iran, corporate tax cuts, H-1Bs, and no mass deportations. Remember when I predicted that in June 2024? And I said, I'm not voting and you shouldn't either. I said, I'm not voting unless he explicitly commits to actually remove everybody, actually implement an immigration moratorium, and specifically refuse regime change in Iran. And everybody said I was crazy. Everybody said I was a plant. I'm a Democrat. Everybody said it's the FBI. And now you learned your lesson. We're on our way to a war with Iran. The Army is getting ready. A second aircraft carrier is being prepared. Deportations are over. You need to feel ashamed and embarrassed. You need to be despairing because they are preparing you. They are getting you ready to do the same thing in 2028. They're going to foist J.D. Vance, and it's going to be the same rhetoric. Golden Age, a Creed concert. We're going to have a Jib Jab Staying Alive edit, and it's going to be Vance and Vivek and all the usual suspects. So I'm sorry, but we have to do this. We have to do this over and over again until you're ready. But anyway, that's the purpose of it. We'll get into all that tonight. Before we do, I want to remind you to smash the follow button on Rumble, smash the like button, leave a comment, let me know what you think about the show. Go to our merch store, Fuentes.store. We have the hats, we have the quarter zips, we have shirts, sweatshirts. Check it out. If you want to support the show, subscribe, become a Plus member at AmericaFirst.plus. $15 a month. Quick and easy, $15 a month, you get access to the entire archive. $100 a month, you get to be in a group chat with me. And I gave a little preview of the show in there, and I was chopping it up a little bit tonight before the show. So check that out. That's AmericaFirst.plus. One other thing before we get into the actual news, we have another story about clavicular tonight, and that's why I'm a little bit late. I told you I was going to do the show at 9:30. I wound up going live at like 10:30, and that's because I was watching clavicular stream, and the reason being is because he was conspicuously released from prison in Phoenix, charges dropped, and then all of a sudden he's on this flight to New York City for this Milady rave party. And I'm sure for the vast majority of people watching, you don't even know what that is. You've never heard of it. And I'll tell you what it is, but it's very weird. He gets sprung from jail. Charges dropped. He was facing 8 years in prison. All of a sudden, no legal problems. And just as quickly, he's on a jet to New York for this party. And he's in the New York fashion show, and then he's going to this after party. And the after party is hosted by Remelia Corporation, which created this NFT called Milady. Now, you don't need to know all the details. All you need to know is it's a teal adjacent project. It is a Peter Thiel adjacent project. You have this scene in New York City, and they're all pretending to be fashion people and artists and filmmakers and things like that. But really, it's all heavily subsidized by Peter Thiel and his cronies. And they're all pro-Vance, and they were all pro-Trump, and they're all pretending to be artists. And this is supposed to be kind of like a cultural offensive. They're like supposed to be the cultural vanguard of the Peter Thiel political project. Heavy overlap with cryptocurrency and Ethereum, overlap with Curtis Yarvin's operating system, overlap with all those different projects that are going on, Sovereign House and Passover Press and all this kind of stuff. And anyway, they all hang out. And this is where Clavicular is going. He's going into the belly of the beast, into this Peter Thiel art collective wannabe tech scene in New York, and he's popping up there, and it's very random, and everybody's kind of wondering, what is he doing there? And is this in any way connected to his invitation to the Peter Thiel party, or the fact that he was just sprung from jail? Because he gets sprung from jail, and now he's at this party, and these guys are not particularly famous. They got a little bit of money, a little bit of zort, so maybe they got paid, who knows? But the timing was a little weird. So he pops up at the party, and I saw all these people tweeting about it. They were saying, oh my gosh, Clavicular's going to our party. Clavicular's going to be at the Milady rave. We're so back. They said a year ago, Milady had no cultural relevance, total L, just no motion at all. They said, wow, we turned it all around. We're winning. Clavicular's going to be at our party. And I was just watching the stream. He pulls up to the party. He's there for 30 seconds. Everybody there's a total freak. It's like a freak show. Rizless chuds coming up, trying to shill their NFT. The manager comes up and tries to kick him out. She gets fucking mogged. She gets literally mogged to death. She falls apart into a million pieces. They tell him he can't film. He turns around and leaves after 10 minutes. And I know a lot of people don't really know what that is, and maybe they don't really know the significance, but for the people that do know, so delicious. Actually delicious. And this is just a little piece of advice, okay? This is a little reminder to everybody in Dime Square. This is a little reminder. Here's a little piece of advice for everybody in that scene. You are not cool. You are fucking lame. Your entire scene is lame. You suck and you are nothing. And you will never, ever compare to the Groypers. You will never have the same or even remotely close to the same level of cultural relevance and motion and effortless authenticity and aura as the Groypers, because you are nothing, because you are fake, you are Jewish, you are propped up by fucking weird defense tech money. Fuck you and your party that I wasn't even invited to. You just got mogged to death. You just got frame mogged. So I saw that. I was like, dude, meme magic. As always, so good. Because I saw that and I was like, wow, he's pulling up to the party. I was like, this sucks. I was like, now all these shit-eating Dime Square posers are going to get to act like big shots for a night. Oh, Clavicular came to our party. Oh, we're cool or whatever. Guys, it's so Jewish, it's not even funny. Like, if you knew, I would spend time explaining it, but it's niche, and I don't really feel like it, but just trust me when I tell you, it's so Jewish. I'll give you an example. Last year, when Trump was inaugurated, when this big Jewish shit show began, at Trump's inauguration, Milady, the same group, they hosted an after party for the inauguration. And what did they call it? I think they called it like the Golden Age Ball, or I don't know, something really gay. And they had this like big party in DC and all these people were there. And dude, there were like a dozen people in kippahs at that party. There was like some Mossad chief. There were rabbis. Laura Loomer was there. It is the most Jewish shit you have ever seen in your life. And they all think they're so cool. And it's like, you're not cool. You're Jewish. And anyway, so I was kind of like, I saw he was going to be at the party. I was like, son of a, like, but no. Wang halves are undefeated. They just got mogged. So anyway, so I was enjoying that. I don't know if you saw the stream, but it was great. I don't even know if he knows who those people are, but he didn't even need to, because he showed up, he felt the vibes are off, and he left. And that's who you are. That I just want all of them to know that's who you are. Clavicular shows up to your party. You guys think you're cool on the internet. You're not. You're just paid money. It's a sinecure. An actual cool, normal young person shows up to your party and is disgusted. An actual cool, normal person shows up to your party. He is there for 5 seconds and he is disgusted. He sees exactly what you are. It took him all of 10 seconds to see exactly what you are. He saw right through you and he left. And that is going in the GQ article. It is going in the GQ article. And yeah, so we're enjoying that. So WClav, I was watching the stream. I was watching Sneeko. Sneeko has like no chill. What is this guy's deal? I go in a Sneeko stream and I'm active in the chat. I hop in the stream. He's talking about Islam and I just make a joke. I'm like, I got to get some Zamzam water because that's like, I don't know, the prophet's water supply in Saudi Arabia. So I literally come in a Sneeko stream and I'm like, hey, I got to get some Zamzam water. And dude has zero chill. He just starts ruthlessly attacking Catholics. He's like, oh yeah? Well, Catholics baptize their babies like this. I'm like, dude, like relax. I'm like, I'm out of here. I come into the stream, I'm trying to hang out. And then it's just like Catholics catching strays. He's attacking the Pope, shitting on me. I'm like, is this how you treat your chatters? Now I know what it's like to be a super chatter. I'm literally in the chat just being like innocent and making a joke. And bro took it personally. Bro declared a jihad. I literally go in the live chat. I'm just having fun. And bro's like, Allahu Akbar. I'm like, dude, relax. It's jokes. These heads have no chill at all. Can't say anything. I wasn't even making fun of it. I was just saying like, Zamzam water, LOL. Holy cortisol spike. Sneeko's got like a little high cortisol thing going on. I don't know what that's all about. We need to work on that. The cortisol, I don't know what it is. It's like a PTSD from the Clubacost. Sneeko's got a little PTSD from the Clubacost. It's like, you know, when a veteran sees a firework go off and he cries. It's like, I don't know. Anybody says anything to Sneeko and the cortisol spikes and it's a jihad. Anyway, so I was like, okay, I'll go in. I don't need to sit here and get attacked. So I went to Clav's stream and I was watching that. And it was good stuff. But anyway, he met Brett Cooper. Did you see that? It's just like the greatest show in the world right now. Honest, no meat riding, but the Clav stream is just like, it's the best thing happening on the internet. It just is. Did you see him meet Brett Cooper? Dude, and Brett Cooper, dude, she wants him. It's crazy. She could barely contain herself. She was trying to jump out of her skin. I think she went there just to meet him. She's dissing him on the stream. Sneeko texted me. He's like, she said we have aura. I'm like, dude, she wants him. She's negging him. She's like glazing us to make him jealous. How do you not see through this? It's just like 101, bro. Sneeko texted me the clip because Brett Cooper said, Sneeko and Nick actually have aura. They're actually cool. Clav is lame. And Sneeko's like, she said we have aura. I'm like, Sneeko, how do you not see what she's doing? She's negging him. She's glazing us to make him jealous. It's so transparent. And then she flew all the way to New York, literally just to be in his presence. She flew all the way to the New York Fashion Show to make a cameo, just to be in his presence, just to download the aura in real life, just to actually feel the frequency and the vibrations in real life. It's what it is. It's what it is. I tell it how it is. That's what I saw. So that was it. She was like, hi, Clav. It's like, it's like, come on now. Keep it in your, like, hey, relax, okay? So anyway, so this is good stuff, guys. This is good stuff. This is great content. He's walking the runway with his phone in hand. Brett Cooper mogs him, a lady freaks. Dude, he told Pariah the doll, get me a burger, then left. It's so peak. Anyway, but that's that. We're going to move on. We're going to get into the news, but I had to just, I don't know if everyone's watching this or is it just me? You know, huge news for the unemployed. Clav just mogged Milady Remilio party. Huge news for the unemployed. I don't know are you guys seeing this? I have no one to talk to about this. All my friends are wages. Anyway, we're going to move on. We're going to get into our news, but that was good stuff. And that was good stuff. All right, but we're moving. Everybody says it's just you, total meat riding. Whatever, dude. Meat riding. Just you, this is gay. All right, sorry. Let's get back into politics. All right, well, we are going to move on. We're going to get into our featured story. I don't know about you guys, but I'm bored with winning. I am absolutely sick and tired. I am disgusted with all the winning that is going on. Our featured story tonight is all about Tom Homan, who announced at a press conference this morning that the ICE surge in Minneapolis is concluded. It's over. He got up today and said that the surge of thousands of Border Patrol and ICE agents is now officially done. And after they initially withdrew 700 agents last week, they're now withdrawing the rest of the agents. And it's over. And this is the story. This is from the Washington Post. It says, quote, Border Czar Tom Homan declared an end to Operation Metro Surge in Minnesota following widespread protests against immigration raids that led to the fatal shooting of 2 American citizens by ICE agents. Homan alleged the operation led to more than 4,000 arrests since it began on December 1st and said it targeted serious offenders in an effort to improve public safety. 4,000 arrests in 77 days. You know how many that is per day? 55. Okay? So all of that for that. Think about it. We deployed, 7,000 ICE and Border Patrol agents into Minneapolis. They were conducting patrols and neighborhood sweeps, and they were doing targeted enforcement. And there were riots and protests, and Targets are getting blown up, and Marriotts are getting torn down, and it's anarchy in the streets, and 2 Americans are dead, and ICE agents are getting beaten to death with shovels. All of that for 55 arrests per day. 55. Okay? Now, in 2025, on average, ICE arrested about 1,000 people per day, and that gave us just around 350,000 arrests for the year. 230,000 removals. Okay? So last year, we did, 1,000 arrests per day, maybe 600 deportations per day. This was 55. Double digits. 55 arrests per day. And this was the biggest surge of ICE and Border Patrol in any city to date. The biggest surge, the biggest operation, Commander Bovino, Commander Holman in Minneapolis. Oh, we're going in. If you're illegal, you better go home. 55 per day. A grand total of 4,000 in 80 days. 4,000 in 80 days. Dude, it should be 4,000 every day. It should be 4,000 per day, not 4,000 in 2.5 months. And that's your biggest operation since Trump got into office, and now it's over. Okay? Just for context, these are the numbers. The article goes on, it says, Holman's announcement came 2 weeks after Trump officials removed Border Patrol Commander Gregory Bovino, who had been leading the operation. Holman said the operation was ending because Ellison had agreed that state and local jails might work with ICE to detain and deport immigrants who have been arrested for crimes. He said officials may notify officers about an immigrant's imminent release and allow them to make arrests inside jails instead of on the street. Minnesota officials have said they already communicate with ICE and facilitate the transfer of serious offenders from state prisons. So, just so you understand what that is, we'll explain it a little bit more in a minute, but what they're describing, They're saying that ICE is leaving the city because now if someone gets arrested for murder and they go to jail, the police will give that person to ICE. So they're saying, we don't need 5,000 ICE agents in the city because now we have an agreement where if someone gets arrested for a horrible, violent crime, well, then they'll just get turned over to ICE. And this is a relief. This is supposed to be good news. That's an Obama-era policy. That should already be happening. That is already happening. That's a given. Of course, if someone gets arrested for a violent murder, they get deported. Of course, they get turned over to ICE. That's the status quo. They already do that. But more on that in a moment. It says Holman acknowledged internal failures in Operation Metro Surge, noting he increased internal affairs presence in Minnesota and informed officers there is zero tolerance for misconduct. He also said he required Border Patrol agents to embed with ICE officers who have more experience with internal enforcement and issued body-worn cameras to officers. In a sign of fissures in Trump's camp, Holman acknowledged the hate from some Republicans who want the president to keep his pledge to deport undocumented immigrants regardless of their criminal history. Holman said, "Oh, we are, but we're prioritizing those who are the biggest threat to our community, the rapists, the murderers, child molesters. That's the right thing to do." So Republicans are unhappy, saying we want every illegal immigrant deported. And Tom Homan said, oh, we're definitely going to deport everybody, but first we're going to do this targeted enforcement. Just one problem. Washington Post says that approach would not enable Trump to deport millions as he and Miller have promised. More than 11 million unlawful immigrants reside in the United States. As of mid-2024, fewer than 700,000 immigrants had criminal histories. Okay? So let me paint a picture for you about this administration. It is 2026. We are entering the second year of this administration. And this mass deportation thing, it is already finished. It's already cooked. It's over. Think about it. Trump deploys the biggest surge of immigration enforcement personnel to Minneapolis to date. You've got thousands and thousands and thousands of ICE, Border Patrol. I believe there were even a few hundred National Guard at one point. And they deploy in Minneapolis, remember, in response to the fraud which was discovered in the Somali community, that Somalians were stealing upwards of $8 billion in government money for these fraudulent nonprofits and programs. And so in response to this discovery, this is supposed to be a showcase. This is supposed to be a demonstration of force. It's not strictly about the numbers. It's also about establishing a precedent. Think about it. You have this YouTuber that goes in and he finds out that all of these Somali daycares and nonprofits are a front. This is a fraud operation, and they are defrauding the taxpayer out of billions and billions of dollars for fake food nonprofits and for disabled people and homeless and everything you can think of. And so Trump, in the spirit of mass deportations and law and order, deploys a small army of ICE, Border Patrol, National Guard to get to the bottom of it and deport these people. And again, it's not just about the numbers, it's about sending a message. And the message is, this is Trump's America. And in Trump's America, we are going to protect the integrity of our system. And that means not just our immigration laws, but also the public dole, also the tax base. Because after all, why would anybody pay taxes if it's just being taken and given knowingly to people that shouldn't even be here so that they can buy luxury cars or give it to people in Somalia? Because that's what's going on. People are paying taxes and the government knows it's fraudulent, but they're making the payments anyway. And these foreigners are taking that money and they're buying luxury goods And they are sending it back in the form of remittances and who knows, other kinds of corruption to their homeboys in Mogadishu. So Trump goes in to say, we are bringing it and we don't play around. And this is what happens if you with America. If you break the laws, we are going to come down on you very hard. Okay. Well, Trump goes out there and again, they're not even doing anything. Okay. And this is something that needs to be acknowledged at the beginning. They're doing all of this. And, if we back it up to where we were back in December, realize they're not even doing anything. There's this big show of force, but that's really all it is. It's just a show. They have DHS investigations going door to door for the cameras, so they can post on social media, so they can tell the public, hey, we're doing something about it. They're not getting to the bottom of anything. They're not really making any arrests. They're not uncovering any huge scandal. They are literally there as a show of force and nothing else. That's all it is a big gesture. It's a big performance. It's a demonstration. And literally for the cameras. They have people there in uniform. They have walking a beat on foot so that their social media person can film it and they can issue a press release and they could post it on the socials. And that way Carpe Donktum and Cat Turd and DC Drano can retweet it to their idiot followers and defend this ridiculous administration. And they can say, see? It's not a total corrupt disaster. They're doing something. So let's just get it straight. It's totally fake to begin with. They're not even doing anything. And we know that now that it is over. 55 arrests per day? How many tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of Somalis live in Minnesota? How many of them are there on TPS? How many of them are there on a temporary protected status technicality that was actually revoked last year? And you're arresting only 55 people per day? There's a lot more than 4,000 illegal immigrants in the city of Minneapolis. It's a big city. That's for openers. So you have this horrific scandal, and it's a layered scandal. It's illegals. They're illegals from Africa. They're Muslim. They're complete aliens and foreigners. Somalia has like the lowest human development index in the world. I think they're like 193rd or 192nd. They're like bottom of the barrel, literally the worst country in the world. They're all here illegally and they're stealing. So Trump sends in DHS to pretend like they're doing enforcement in response to the performance. You have the radical left activated. And I know some people take issue with my use of the phrase radical left, but that's what they are. These are local activist cells. These are local chapters of different groups. They are socialist, they are communist, progressive, far left. And that is the basis under which they're organizing. Like, that's what they are. They are far left, decentralized, networked, extremely organized on social media, funded, some say by billionaires, and I tend to believe that. And so the far left deploys into the city to thwart the deportations. And you've seen this. They're organizing in signal chats. There's some claims that they're working with the government, that the mayor is in on this, that the governor's in on this, that some of the Democrat city machine is in on these activist group chats. And they're organizing to basically harass and impede ICE and Border Patrol. And you've seen the videos on social media. They're taking pictures of license plates to identify ICE vehicles. Then they've got spotters placed around the city to look out for the vehicles. And when they see them, they then deploy the activists. And they deploy them in vehicles and on foot to either harass the vehicles, honking the horns, alerting illegals, or they're using their vehicles to box in ICE, or they're on foot getting in the face of ICE agents and physically confronting them, harassing them, impeding their operations, impeding actual arrests and law enforcement duties. And so this is happening now in Minneapolis. Again, layers to it. In response to this, Trump sends in a few hundred National Guard and he beefs up the presence. Initially, there were only a few thousand ICE agents. Trump beefed it up. I think he doubled those numbers, increased them by 50, 100%. And he bolstered that with Border Patrol to deal with the protesters. So you have a small contingent there to make the arrests of the illegals and investigate the fraud. Protesters come out in full force. So then Trump deploys National Guard and Border Patrol to deal with the protesters. Well, the protesters only escalate. The agitators only escalate, and their numbers are growing. And there's these huge protests and huge encounters. And as we all know, what happens next? They start getting killed. Renee Good gets killed. Alex Preddy gets killed. And there's this convulsion across the whole country. You get the wall-to-wall media coverage. There's riots in Minneapolis, huge protests coast to coast. There's this effort on social media unlike anything I've seen since George Floyd. I see people on Instagram posting about, we need to support immigrant voices and we need resources in the community and all that kind of stuff. It all makes a big reappearance. And this is where we are in January. And this is actually the moment of decision, okay? It's all, you have to understand, everything is building up to this point. And when I say everything, I mean everything. When Trump ran in 2016, he said, we have an illegal immigration problem. There's way too many of them here. There's way too many coming over. We have an open border. We need to build a wall and kick these people out. And he has fought so hard for 10 years. The election of 16, the impeachments, the fraudulent election in 20, the Stop the Steal, the J6, the indictments, the assassination, elected in 24. It is to deal with this problem. It is to deal with the globalization of our country through population replacement. And so we are here. He runs on a platform of mass deportations to undo the 10 million that Biden brought in. And there's this mandate to achieve it because the problem is so out of control. Trump gets $150 billion, I think it's $190 billion with the big, beautiful bill last year for this purpose, for a wall, for ICE, for deportations, to do this. Okay, so we've arrived. We're here. This is a moment of decision. This is the confrontation. We have fought all this time to get to this point. Elections, impeachments, indictments, prison sentences, censorship, assassinations and assassination attempts, appropriations, just to get to this point where the rubber meets the road and ICE is finally going to go into these major cities and start rounding these people up and throwing them out. And as expected, this is not going to happen without pushback. It's not going to be easy. You're not going to deport 20 million people without resistance. You're not going to do the largest deportation operation in U.S. history without encountering some pushback. It's not going to be easy. So here we are. We've arrived. What does Trump do? Well, like always, he completely and totally and unambiguously cucks. He chickens out, surrenders, capitulates immediately. He folds. This was your moment. And by the way, it could be no other way. There is no other way this could go. If you want to deport 10 million people in 4 years, you need to deport thousands and thousands of people every single day. If you're deporting thousands of people every single day, you know what's going to happen? Some people are going to die. It's just the way it is. Thousands of people every day for years. Yes, some people are going to be arrested who are citizens. And it's a big mistake and a misunderstanding, but statistically, it's going to happen. If you're going to deport 10 million people, what are the odds that one of them or a dozen of them or 100 of them are going to get caught up in this accidentally? And so the media is going to say, due process, Fourth Amendment, out of control, right? It's inevitable. And if they're saying that, and if illegals are being hauled out of their communities, and if there's a huge ICE visible presence in the streets, there's going to be left-wing protests. To get thousands and thousands of people out, you're going to need a shit ton of cops everywhere, all the time. And they're going to be militarized. And they're going to be hauling a lot of people out that don't want to leave. So they're going to be crying and screaming and carrying on and resisting. And some of them are going to get their asses kicked. And some of them are going to get separated from their kids. And like I said, some of them are going to be detained improperly or mistakenly. And all of this is going to create resistance. Resistance from the left, which is sympathetic to these people. Resistance from the Democrat machine, which relies on them to harvest votes and other things. Resistance even from the business community, because they rely on these people for cheap labor and for consumption and other things. So, in other words, it could go no way other than this. Then you're going to get massive backlash. You're going to get protests. You're going to get riots. You're going to get agitators attacking ICE. All of this is unavoidable. And what are you going to do to those people? You got to arrest them and kill them. If you have left-wing agitators firebombing ICE facilities, shooting ICE officers with a sniper rifle, boxing them in with an SUV with an AR-15 in your lap, if they're getting in the middle of an arrest, if they're running over an ICE agent with the car, you know what? Yeah, a lot of these people need to be arrested, and some of them, it's unavoidable, they're going to be in an officer-involved shooting. And that's going to provoke more of a response. But this is the fight. There's a word for this. It's called a war. Okay? And war is not easy. War is the highest form of human organization. And this is what it is. Fighting for every inch, every hill, every valley, every river, every choke point, taking land, and you're advancing. And you're going to take shots, and some people around you are going to go down, and there's going to be complications, but you deal with it, and you advance. You always advance. It's a war, and this is what it's going to be. Don't you realize this? You know, there were a lot of people when these protesters got killed who said, you know, I support mass deportations, but not like this. There's no other way. How would you physically remove 10 million people from this country and not make any mistakes? How would you do it? How would you remove 10 million people without asking somebody, do you speak English? Without accidentally detaining somebody that happens to be a citizen? How do you do this without provoking a left-wing response that is violent? And how do you do that without one of them dying? I mean, you saw those videos of Alex Preddy. This guy was unhinged. He was deranged. He got his ribs broken by ICE. In another altercation, he's flailing around, kicked the taillights out of one of ICE's cars. He got thrown to the ground. This guy was a lunatic. He's there with a loaded gun in his waistband and 2 other magazines in his car. What was he there to do? What are we supposed to do with a guy like that? And it's inevitable that guys like that are going to be created by a policy like this at volume. So this is the fight. And if you're not willing to stomach some dead agitators, if you're not willing to stomach some brutal tactics to put down these protests, tear gas and riot shields and all that stuff, if you can't stomach family separation, if you can't stomach the militarization of ICE, then you don't want mass deportations. And you know what else? If you don't want mass deportations, then you get a mass amnesty. There's no other option. You either get all of that with mass deportations, and if you don't deport 10 million people, then 10 million people just got an amnesty. 30 million people just got an amnesty. 30, 40, 50 million, however many there are, they just got an amnesty. They just got a free passport to the United States, and their kids won the lottery. Citizenship and a passport, and that is their ticket to our schools and our health care. That is a ticket to our welfare system. That is a ticket to our welfare state, our safety net. Voting, all of it. And that's unacceptable. If you amnesty 30 million people, you don't have a country. What right at that point do you have to say that some other foreign national can't come here and overstay their welcome? You can't. You amnesty 30 million people, you don't have a country. You don't have a border. And what credibility do any of the laws have? If 30 million people can come here, they're here illegally, they should be removed, and they're staying against our will. We don't have a country at that point. So this is how it has to be. All of this. It's necessary that it's necessary to get to the conclusion to go through these things. The only way out is through all of this. And what does Trump do at the moment of decision? Total surrender. Before Renee Good was even shot, the White House was talking about recalibrating. Remember? Before Renee Good was even shot, before her body hit the floor, the White House was talking about changing the strategy and recalibrating and focusing on those so-called criminal illegal aliens. Remember? Then Renee Good got shot, and Trump went on a press conference and said, we're only deporting the criminals. Then the other guy got shot. They relieved Bovino. They pulled out 700 ICE officers. Kristi Noem started talking about body cams. Stephen Miller started blaming everybody else. And it was over. And now they have slow-walked it, but ultimately they are retreating. First they took out Bovino. Then they pulled out 700 guys. They did it in a graduated way over the course of a month. And now in the middle of February, they say the whole thing is over. We're pulling everybody out. What else would you call this other than an utter surrender? This is a total surrender. And I see a lot of Trump supporters saying, no, that's because we won. No, they're not all the ICE agents are leaving. What else would you call this? And how do you think the left interprets this? You have the John Brown Gun Club deploying to Minneapolis. You've got these progressives and communists, DSA. They're all over Minneapolis. They're establishing checkpoints. They're getting in the face of ICE officers, overwhelming them and attacking them. And ICE makes the announcement, we're leaving. Our commander that everyone hates, he's out. He got sent to some other state. We pulled 700 out 2 weeks ago. Now we're all leaving. What kind of message do you think that sends to the left? Well, it's obvious to anybody who isn't delusional. The message that this sends to the left is that agitation works. If you dox ICE agents, if you attack their cars, if you interfere in their duties, if you riot outside their hotels, if you riot in Target, if you scream in their face, they will leave. If you increase the unpleasantness, if you show up and cause problems, well, the Trump administration has no balls and they will leave. If all you have to do is go out, all you have to do is go out and bang on pots and pans, all you have to do is go out and break the laws, run over some ICE agents, and they will back down. They will retreat. In other words, you will get what you want. Rioting works. You don't like what the government is doing? Just riot and they'll stop. You don't like that the government is deporting illegals? Just riot outside their hotel. Dox them, intimidate them, attack law enforcement, and they will stop the thing that you don't like. They will leave. And do you know what happens when you send that message to the left-wing agitators? They do more of it. They get emboldened. You just taught them something, which is if we riot, we get our way. So what do you think they're going to do more of? They're going to riot more. They're doxing, swatting, attacking Trump administration officials. Stephen Miller has to live on a military base because of the death threats. A lot of them do now. A lot of them need around-the-clock security. ICE agents have to wear masks because they know that if they don't, they're going to get doxed, and left-wing psychos might kill them. And you just taught every left-wing psycho and schizo, every tranny, every wannabe Luigi Mangione, every wannabe Tyler Robinson, hey, it works. Do more of that. The Trump administration will back down. They won. The left won, and Trump let them win. He served it up on a silver platter. He just gave up. And here's the best part. We're in the right. We have the law on our side. Trump is the president. He was elected. He won the popular vote. He won the Electoral College. It wasn't a trick. He won the election on a platform of mass deportations. He won the House and the Senate. It also happens to be the law. He is using law enforcement to physically remove people that are here illegally. So we have everything going for us. You've got the popular mandate. You've got the executive branch. We are right. We have the law on our side. These are cops. This is federal law enforcement. The illegals shouldn't be here, and the agitators can't beat up law enforcement. And we gave up. We could use the law. We could use ICE. We could use the $200 billion for DHS, and we could throw all these people in jail, and we would have every right, and it would be legal. And we have a mandate to do it. We could put these people under the jail if we had the political will. What's stopping us? Not judges, not Democrats, nobody. You've got, how many ICE agents did they hire? 12,000? You got the detention space. You got the budget. Isn't that what the big, beautiful bill was all about? This was a decisive confrontation over mass deportations and against the left, and Trump blinked, and he lost. And what does that say about the country? Who's really in charge here? Well, we just sent the message that the anarchists are in charge. Think about it. Illegals are squatting in our country. The actual native-born citizens and the taxpayers are saying, hey, get the fuck out. You need to leave. You don't belong here. You cheated. You cut the line. This is not right. This isn't fair. We have a very generous system. How many immigrants do we allow to come here legally? Through family-based migration, chain migration, refugee program, visa lottery, work visas. This is a very generous nation. You people have no right to be here. You're not refugees. You're not asylum seekers. You're economic migrants. You are here because it is preferable to live in our country that our ancestors built as opposed to your shithole country. Now, that doesn't make you an asylum seeker because you're poor over there. It just means you'd prefer to live here. Well, it's the obligation of our government to protect our stuff and the integrity of our borders and our laws and our quality of life, the order in our society. We go to the illegals and say, hey, get out. Well, they just vetoed that decision. We elected a president to physically remove them, and they vetoed that. No, we're not going anywhere. Again, we have law enforcement. Law enforcement is going in, arresting the agitators, the illegals, the protesters. The agitators are breaking the law. It's disorderly conduct. It's borderline insurrection. They're running checkpoints. They're vandalizing private property. They're assaulting law enforcement, spitting on them, punching them, vandalizing their cars. Once again, who's in control here? We elect a president, even in the other case, to deploy the National Guard to restore law and order in the left-wing cities. In Chicago, in D.C., in New York City, in L.A. What do they do there? They riot. Once again, who's in control? The criminals. The agitators, the communists, the anarchists, the murderers, the burglars, the carjackers. These corrupt Democrat machines. Think about why we're even there. We are there because the Democrat political machine in Minneapolis, in Minnesota, is funneling taxpayer money to this criminal illegal alien population. What a sucker you are. You're a citizen. You were born here. Your ancestors were born here. They built this place. You actually work. You obey the laws. You own a home. You pay your taxes. And the Democrat machines take your taxpayer money. that you work for, and they give it to illegal aliens that have no right to be here from shithole countries that hate us so that they can send it home. And then they work with agitators when the government tries to deport those people. And you have a Jewish mayor, Jacob Fry, that says, get the fuck out of our city. And the agitators attack the cops. And this is our country now. That's who's in control. That's who's in control in LA, New York, Chicago, Minneapolis, DC. That is who is in control of our country. The homeless, the vagabonds, the burglars, carjackers, murderers, illegal aliens, scammers, fraudsters, corrupt politicians. That is who is in control. And you know, the whole point of electing Trump is that he was going to fight those people on our behalf. Wasn't that the shtick? You know, fight, fight, fight. Remember that? Remember when Trump raised his fist and said, fight, fight, fight? And they said that 6 million times at the convention. Trump is going to fight. He's our voice. He's going to win for us. He is a bitch. Trump is a bitch. He chickens out. I mean, what do we have to lose here? You want to know why they surrendered and retreated? Because they're worried about the midterms. You want to know why? Because the Chamber of Commerce called up and said, we don't like all these protests in the Target parking lot. We don't like all these protests outside our Marriott hotels. That's why. Because the Republican conference called up and said, hey, we're going to lose the midterms if this keeps up. This is really unpopular. That's why. That's why they're stopping. It is a decision that Trump made. Trump could do it. You're the president of the United States. You won the election. You have the law on our side. He could do it. He won't because he doesn't have it in him. And this loss cannot be overstated. Like, think about what we're now involved in. Like, think about what Trump is doing. He's going after his political opponents like James Comey and all these other people. And these executive orders and the things that he's saying and the way that they're deploying ICE and doing this performative stuff. Look at how much you have pissed off the left. These people are insane. Another tranny shooting in Canada happens all the time now. Tranny school shootings, left-wing trannies assassinating people. These people are emboldened. You got guys like Zohran Mamdani say they want to tax white neighborhoods to pay for free shit for the poor. You got this guy running in Texas who says it's class warfare against the billionaires. We got to eat the rich. California, they're doing a wealth tax. And I know it's on billionaires and everything. But these Democrats are emboldened. The left is emboldened by what they're seeing. And they don't play. Trump has pissed them off royally. He has challenged them. They are coming back with a vengeance, and now Trump doesn't want to fight. Now Trump is totally caved. Who is going to be left now to pick up the pieces with all these people? When a Democrat wins in 2028 because of all this, what are they going to do to us? Trump is going to be fine. He'll pardon himself. He'll be in Qatar. He'll be in the Middle East somewhere with his family. What are we going to do? Do you know that when a Democrat gets back in, they are going to eradicate ICE? They're going to abolish ICE. They're going to open the borders. They're going to undo everything Trump did, and they're going to go in the complete opposite direction. And this is what I warned you about. These are these second-order consequences that nobody wanted to think about. Remember in 2024, I said that if we elect Trump and he doesn't do these things, if he shits the bed, that he is going to be an albatross and he's going to drag us all down. He's going to get blamed for everything. And we're going to get someone far left in 2028. But everybody said, yeah, but we need to buy more time. And, you know, he's the lesser of two evils. Remember? Nobody wanted to think about that long-term effect. Nobody wanted to think about those second-order consequences in 2024. But now it's becoming very apparent why a second Trump administration might not have been the best idea. And it's because he hasn't changed. This is the exact same thing that happened 8 years ago. It's identical. It's literally identical. Trump was elected in 2016 on build the wall, deport them all. And he utterly failed. It didn't happen. And he tried, and he backed down. He tried to do family separation, tried to get a border wall. 2018 midterms came around. It got too hot. He backed down. It was obvious that he had not changed at all in 2024. And that's why we're seeing the exact same story play out in 2026. And how do you think this ends, by the way? So Tom Homan has withdrawn us from Minneapolis. That's over. How do you think we're going to get mass deportations now? What does that look like? We deported 230,000 last year. You'd be lucky if you get 1 million total by the end of 4 years. How do you double that number? Well, to double that number, you need twice as many ICE agents, twice as many arrests, twice as many deportations, obviously. How are you going to do that in any major city after this? How do you go into a major city where the illegals are and start rounding them up in much larger numbers than you did last year after what just took place in Minneapolis? It's going to be the same. You go into New York, Chicago, LA, Houston, Dallas, it's going to be the same story. You try to get these deportations up, it's going to involve a huge ICE presence that's very visible. The illegals are emboldened, they will resist. The agitators will respond and turn out. It's going to be the same because they know the Trump administration's a joke. So how do you think it's going to happen? It's not. It's done. And they're already telling you that. Tom Homan said, we're prioritizing the violent criminals. Trump said, violent criminals. They said, why are we leaving Minneapolis? Because the police have made an agreement with us. You know what the agreement is? If a murderer gets arrested and they happen to be illegal, they'll be turned over to ICE. That's the agreement. So this is the end of those mass deportations, which are achieved with sweeping patrols and raids in neighborhoods. And this is the beginning of targeted enforcement. An Obama-era policy where they only go after criminals, or the local police turn over criminals to ICE who happen to be illegal. That's what that is. And as this article says, there's only 700,000 criminal illegal aliens that fit that description. So how are you going to deport 10 million illegals when there's only 700,000 that have committed a crime? And you've probably deported 100,000 of them already. Where are you going to get those numbers from? You're not. And do you know what's going to happen in 2027? It's not going to get better. In 2027, here's a little preview for you. We will lose the House in 2026. Democrats will control the House. In 2027, they will refuse to fund the government unless ICE is severely limited and constrained and restricted. And that will be the end of that. You see, on Polymarket, Democrats have an 83% chance of winning. You look at the generic ballot favorability, job approval, it's absolutely miserable. Democrats are going to capture the House. That is where appropriations bills originate. And in 2027 and 2028, you're not going to be able to fund one agency or department in the government because the Democrats will demand that everything be defunded until ICE is effectively hamstrung and abolished. So you think it's going to get better? It's going to get worse. This mass deportation thing is on hold. It is on an indefinite pause while Republicans try to salvage their party in the midterms. But they're not going to do anything risky or sensational or effective until then. And then you get your lame duck period, the Democrats get seated, and then just like they're doing right now, Democrats are defunding DHS, and they don't even control any chamber. They have a minority in the Senate, and they're using it to defund Homeland Security over this. Wait until they control the House. Wait until they balance it out in the Senate. and they're going to shut this government down. It's going to be subpoenas, impeachments, indictments, select committees. It's going to be government shutdowns until you get sick to your stomach. And that's going to roll right through to 2028. And that is your second Trump administration. Those are your mass deportations. And here's the worst part, totally avoidable. Who do you have to blame? I mean, these people. Tom Homan, Stephen Miller, and Trump. You let us down. You surrendered. You lost. Think about how they played these people up. Stephen Miller is autistically thinking about how to deport more people. Tom Homan is the man. Dude, Tom Homan went to Minneapolis to wrap it up. Trump sent Tom Homan to Minneapolis to facilitate the retreat, to facilitate the orderly surrender of ICE to the communists and the Somali scammers and the illegal immigrants. And that is exactly what happened. I don't want to hear anything different from the plan trusters. That is exactly what happened. They went in there because of the YouTuber. They went in there because of Nick Shirley to deport the Somali scammers. They decisively lost. And Tom Homan was deployed to facilitate the orderly surrender of the city to the Jewish Democrat mayor, to Tim Walz, to the Somalians, to the illegals, to the Democratic Socialist hicklibs. And that is what has happened. And they have nobody to blame but themselves. You can't blame the Democrats. You can't blame Biden. You can't blame anybody. That's on you. That's on Stephen Miller. That's on Kristi Noem. That's on Tom Homan. And ultimately, that is on Donald Trump because the buck stops with him. It comes from the top. You can't blame bad advisors or bad personnel because he hired all of them. That is Trump's fault. And I don't know why anybody would vote for Republicans in 2026. I don't know why anybody would even bother showing up, because what are we getting out of it? They said mass deportations to trick you into voting for them. They had no intention of doing it, and now they're letting us down. No mass deportation. We're staying home in the midterms. Forget it. How could you even have the audacity to ask Republicans to turn out when you have buried the Epstein files, we are on our way to bomb Iran a second time, and you have surrendered Minneapolis to the Somalian scammers? Why would anyone pay taxes for that matter? Think about how raped we are as a people. How raped can you possibly be? This is our country. We were born here. Our ancestors built it. We have citizenship. We obey the laws. We pay the taxes. We own the property. And you have illegal Muslim Africans scamming the government out of money. The Democrats are in on it. And if we try to fix the problem, they riot and ICE just walks away. They just walk away. When these degenerate freaks like Alex Preddy, who, I'm glad he's dead. When Alex Preddy, this psycho deranged maniac, goes to confront ICE and dies in the process, and the left is rioting, Trump and Border Patrol and ICE, they just walk away. They just give it to him without a fight. And you go and vote for more of it. You go and vote for more of that. I don't do it. I don't do it. I have some pride. People say lesser of two evils. I have some pride. I'm not going to vote for somebody to say they're going to fight for me and then surrender to my enemies. I'm not going to affirm that. I'm not going to positively affirm that. You don't get my vote. You don't get my vote of confidence after that. And that's exactly what took place here. And pay attention. All these people that are making excuses, make a mental note. Because they are going to expect you to eat shit again and again and again. The same people that you see on Twitter that are trying to spin this, The same people that you see on Twitter that are trying to pretend like this isn't a surrender, they're saying, actually, it's a win. Actually, Trump bent Tim Walz over. Anybody that is saying that, make a mental note, because the only reason they're saying it is because they are being paid under the table by the GOP, and they're going to try to get you right back on the hamster wheel in 28, and they're going to get you to eat shit all over again. You think it'll be different with J.D. Vance? Why would it be different? He's the vice president. Why would it be different? And by the way, where is JD, huh? Where is our guy, JD? Isn't it funny how JD, our guy that's just like us, that plays Halo, the kind of guy that would order pizza with you and drink Code Red. You ever notice that JD is always there throwing himself in front of the cameras when it's something that the base likes? Like when Charlie Kirk died, he was all over the funeral, and he was on the Charlie Kirk show. Remember that? Whenever it's a photo op for one of these issues that the base likes, he was at the Turning Point convention. JD is there. But when the Epstein files are being buried, where's our guy? I thought the posters were in control. I thought the frogs were in control. Where's our guy, JD? Where's our based vice president that follows all of the edgy accounts on Twitter? Where is he? When the Jewish sex trafficking ring is being covered up by his president, by his boss. Where's JD when ICE is retreating from Minneapolis and giving the city to the anarchists and the communists? Where's our guy now? Is he only there when there's a photo op? Is he only there when he can make a pitch to the base for the 2028 Republican primary? Because when this administration's crashing and burning, he's very careful about not being anywhere in proximity then. Very careful not to appear. He's not really working behind the scenes, not really in front of the camera either. Where's our guy? Where's Stephen Miller? Where's JD? Where are these people? Where are all these based people that are going to run our government for us because Trump is out to lunch? Where are they? Stephen Miller is a Jew. Okay, and he knows that, and you may not care about that, but he cares about that. You may think it's arbitrary, he doesn't. Okay, and J.D. Vance is whatever they need him to be. When J.D. thought that Trump was going to lose, he was a never-Trumper. And when he thought that Trump was going to fail, he was calling Trump a Nazi on CNN. And when it became apparent that he was going to need Trump's endorsement, suddenly he was at NatCon, which is going to be in Jerusalem this year, by the way. And now he's a national conservative. He's whatever they need him to be. Look at where he comes from. Nothing. Fake career, fake everything. He is a puppet of Peter Thiel. He is a puppet of Elon Musk. He is a puppet of these people. Everybody that's trying to tell you, base JD, base Stephen Miller. Them. Fuck Stephen Miller and fuck Vance and fuck Tucker Carlson. Tucker says Vance is so great. Hey, explain this one, man. Tucker is going to be right out there shucking and jiving. His son works for JD. Tucker had him on his show 46 times, I think. I lost count. Fuck them. These people are not going to take us to the promised land. It is a Pied Piper effect. I'm so sick of it, I can't even tell you. It is ridiculous. We should be winning. Shouldn't we? Don't you think? When do we get the winning? I remember we were going to get bored with winning. You're going to win so much. 10 years. People say it's only been 1 year. 10 years. Trump came down the escalator in 2015. It's been 10 years. Actually, when are we going to start winning? How many people need to get shot in the face? Charlie Kirk got shot in the face. Whatever happened to that? Trump got shot in the head. How many J6ers went to jail? How many people lost friends or a job because of the vax mandate, because you wore a MAGA hat? How many people got censored or lost their business or got debanked? To give up? We come all this way and this is what we have? You just surrender? Tom Homan goes up and says, well, we can, and he's so smug. Well, we concluded our operation. Really, man? F you. What a joke. We need just like a straight up MAGA insurrection. Full-fledged, fuck this movement. Seriously. People need to make it clear. We are not happy. You can't cross us on everything. We are reasonable. We understand that politics is tricky, but you can't fuck us on everything. On Epstein, on Ukraine, on Iran, on AI, on deportations, on H-1Bs, on student visas. You can't fuck us on absolutely everything. And they're stealing, and they're corrupt, and they're stealing. Kristi Noem is running around with her boyfriend, allegedly Corey Lewandowski, and they're stealing. On top of it, they're stealing with Trump coin. They're stealing with all these scams they're putting out there. And at what point are people going to have enough? At what point have people had enough of that? We have to stop being gaslit by these anonymous suckers on Twitter. Laser eyes emojis, smug idiots, Jack Posobiec types. Are we trusting the plan? No, there is no plan. Obviously, there is no plan. Where's our fucking border wall? There is no plan. Where's our mass deportations? Where's our no new wars? Where's the infrastructure bill? Where's the middle class tax cut? Where is this stuff? Now they're going to say, well, we need to get this SAVE Act passed. You know that's not going to happen. You know it's not. The Democrats have 47 seats. How are you going to get it through? You can't use budget reconciliation. They say, well, we need the SAVE Act. You know how to do it. Get rid of the filibuster. So, they're going to pretend like they're going to do it. They're going to pretend like they're trying to. They're not doing anything. They know it's not going to happen. And they don't care. There's no urgency. They don't even care. They're not even trying. It is an elaborate performance. And that is why we have to burn it all down. Do you understand now? Are you getting it now? They said I was crazy in 2024. Now you understand this is why we have to burn it all down. All of it. MAGA, the Republican Party. We need something so radical and so extreme that it makes MAGA and Donald Trump look like a joke. You understand? We need something that is actually serious. It's not some billionaire that was on Epstein Island and he brings in Steve Mnuchin and Scott Bessent and all these people. We actually need the real deal now. You thought you were afraid of right-wing populism before. We need real right-wing populism, not a cynical demagogue exploiting the energy of right-wing populism. We need a real right-wing populism. I don't think you're going to like it. It's going to be cruder and uglier. It's going to be brutal. And that's what needs to happen. We tried. You thought Trump was the burn it all down candidate. You haven't seen that yet. Trump is an accommodationist. Trump has no ideology. Trump is hollow. And they wouldn't let us deport the criminal illegal aliens. It just needs to get more serious. So don't tell me, well, we need to hold the line. Look at how that has turned out. We tried that. Hold the line. We have to try it once more. We need Republicans to win. Like, why? Literally, why? Look at who controls Minneapolis. Look at who controls LA, Chicago, New York. Does it make a difference whether it's a Republican or Democrat in charge? It doesn't. I mean, it literally doesn't. So that's the capitulation, Minneapolis. It's so serious. It's such a problem. And they just failed. It's like with COVID. Trump could have kept the country open. He failed. He chose not to. He invented the vaccine. BLM. Trump could have put down the BLM riots. He decided not to. He decided not to. He thought it would help him in the election if it went on longer. Every opportunity, we have our guy in the White House and he just stands down. We need someone in the White House that is not going to do that. We need a Caesar. We don't need someone that's playing around in the Rubicon, you know? We need someone that's going to cross the Rubicon. You understand the significance of this? We actually need a real leader that is going to cross the Rubicon. We need someone that is going to bring the army into America and crush these people before they can crush us. Not someone that's going to, dip their toe in the water and say, oh man, well, we might do the Insurrection Act. We might deploy the National Guard. We're going to deploy 100 National Guard until they ask us to leave, and then we'll say mission accomplished. Someone needs to go all the way. Because clearly, we have some severe problems, and it's just not being fixed. So it's a complete disaster. I'm completely vindicated. And like I said, you need to feel angry. You should be angry. We won. You voted for this, and this is what you're getting. Your tax dollars. You're paying taxes, and they're being given to Somalians. Illegals. There's no law and order. You pay a speeding ticket from a camera. Meanwhile, Antifa is punching a cop in the face and they get away with it. I mean, what are we doing here? We stand up and their game is over. You understand that, right? The white man stands up and their game is over. We already live in a country where blacks and Hispanics and shithead white liberals, they already don't contribute. They already don't obey the laws. They're already a drain on society. They're counting on white people to be well-behaved. They're counting on white people to be good little worker ants and go to work and pay your taxes and don't fight with the cops and vote Republican. They're counting on that. We stand up, the game is over. We start acting like they act, it's over. That's all I'm saying. Take your own side. Understand your power. Your power is in your vote, your dollar. You're a man. You're a human being. I mean, are we going to let our country go without a fight? Look at it. So anyway, that's that. We're going to move on. We're going to take a look at our super chats. We'll see what you guys have to say about all this. It's such a disgrace. I mean, seriously, these people they have to be ritualistically humiliated. Everyone that ever posted a Stephen Miller meme just needs to have their face shoved in the mud. You posted a Stephen Miller meme. You trusted this Zionist Jew to do your deportations. He is a typical smug, arrogant Jew who does not care about Americans. All he cares about is himself. All he cares about is mean mugging for the camera, promoting himself and his brand. He is arrogant. He is flippant. He is smug. He is loyal to Israel. He doesn't give a fuck about you. And people say, Stephen Miller is doing the deportations. You should feel embarrassed. You are a cuck. You are an idiot. People talking about Stephen Miller. He's our base Jew. Every generation has one base Jew who's going to stick up for us stupid white people. What a joke. Yeah, do another picture where Stephen Miller makes a face like Curtis Yarvin, these Jewish idiots, these Jewish mediocrities. It's disgusting. All this shit about Stephen Miller and Tom Homan. It's just like we're a joke. I lose my mind because that's all I see on Twitter is this slop. Base Stephen Miller, base Tom Homan, and these people, they're so amused with themselves. They're so smug. And look at the outcome. So predictable. Total cave. Total surrender. Chickens out like he does on everything. Where are they now? Where's base Stephen Miller now? Where's our base Stephen Miller and his wife Katie, the Jewish American princess? talking about our Jewish, Cenk Uyghur's attacking my Jewish kids. For crying out loud, take your own side. Anyway, all right, but that's that. All right, we got to move on. We got to read these super chats. The super chats will not read themselves. Let me get, set up here. We'll see what we got. There it is. Okay. All right. So that's that. We got to have somebody run in 2028. It's never Vance. It is just so like on site. Never Vance, never Miller, never Tucker. Can the real America First rise up? All right.
All right. We're in a tough situation. We're in an impossible situation. And the reason why we're in an impossible situation is because the Democrats, our government, I'm not even going to say the Democrats. You want to know why? Because 10 million migrants wouldn't have came into this country if both the people that are running the Republicans and the Democrats, if they did not want 10 million migrants here, 10 million migrants wouldn't have been here. We can act as if this is a right versus left issue. We can act as if it's just the Democrats trying to import their next voting base. It is some of that. But overall, it wouldn't happen, just like the Epstein files wouldn't have been released and weren't released by both Democrats and Republicans. And we see the efforts that both sides are going to redact certain things and not expose this child sex trafficking ring or whatever it may end up being with the Epstein files. So here we are when it comes to deportation, mass deportation. The problem is that Trump came in talking tough about a situation that you can't have an aggressive approach to, in my opinion. When you have an aggressive approach to deporting people, all it's going to do is rile up the other side to then have an aggressive response. Now, that may be exactly what they're looking for to distract us with what's going on in Minneapolis. Donald Trump can't go there. JD can't go there, but we have time to worry about what's going on in Israel. We have time to worry about what's going on in Venezuela, and we have time to go send our troops down there to kidnap their president. We have time to go into or to strike Iran. We have time to possibly do something in Nigeria because y'all know that's what Trump was leaning towards with all this fake news on, oh, there's Christians dying. Yeah, well, when you look at the last couple of years, it's actually been more Muslims dying. At least this past year, there were more Muslims dying than Christians, but they try to make it seem like, oh, this is an attack on Christianity. If you want to address an attack on Christianity, Trump, perhaps you should address the fact that America is supposed to be a country founded on Christian values, but it seems to be led by that name that comes before the Christian values that just happened to appear. I don't know when it appeared, but Judeo-Christian values, if we're just being real. So instead of trying to address and play games when it comes to Nigeria, act like you're playing Robin Hood when you're not. You're just continuing the European colonization tricks of causing chaos and then trying to save the day or appear as if you're saving the day, and people aren't going for it. Why don't you save your country, America? Then when you create all these toxic situations in all these other countries, we wonder why we have people trying to get here, trying to come here illegally. Well, how about we stop messing with all these other countries and inputting ourselves in their issues? And if we don't want Muslims here, how about we leave them alone and let them live where they're living? Seems like a pretty straightforward, practical situation or a practical solution, rather than us just creating a problem and then creating problems that persist on top of that. Now, let me get back to the initial point that I was making as far as why we are here. Our government decided to bring in 10 million illegal migrants. It is not realistic to think that you can deport those people. It's almost crazy to think that 10 million even came. When you look at the numbers of how many people that really is on a day-to-day basis, and all you have to do is listen to Nick based on how many people you would have to deport on a day-to-day basis. It seems like they were just letting people in, like aiding people to come in, selling, right? That's what it's always been, selling the American dream so all these other people can come in. And there's a reason why they're selling the American dream. And Nick finished off saying, like, we've already allowed enough black and brown and everybody else to get over on America, right? What Nick may not be realizing, or maybe he does, maybe he's just not looking at it as deep as I'm looking at it. Our country relies on this cheap labor. And just like after the pandemic, I don't know if y'all have peeped, but when you go to a restaurant, it seems to be terrible service across the board. Customer service seems to have gone down, and it was already terrible in the first place. They're not able to hire enough workers. That's why you'll go to a restaurant. Well, you'll go on Resy.com looking to book your reservation, or you'll go into a restaurant and have to wait for 20, 30 minutes. And it's like, yo, there's empty tables, but they just don't have enough staff, whether it's in the kitchen or whether it's waiter and waitresses, to actually service everybody. Americans don't want to work for certain wages. We've become entitled in some ways. They need this cheap labor, and America has always depended upon cheap labor or free labor in some cases in order to be successful. So that is the same thing, the same cycle of what is happening now. Now, during the time when there was the factories and, whether it's Detroit and some of these other areas, people could work these factory jobs, still make a living, have 2 cars, wife stay at home. That's over. That's over. Perhaps that was the benefit of all of the free or cheap labor that was happening before that. But then when it comes to, and I can't even say it was the benefit of that, but we don't even have those factories anymore. We don't have those factories anymore. So therefore, and let me take that back as far as justifying the reason why people were able to make those wages, just basing it on having cheap labor previously. I don't agree with that. And I don't even know if I disagree with it, but I haven't dove deep enough to make a statement like that. So I want to just be clear on that. However, what was clear is that we had our own factories. So therefore, our economy was doing better. We were getting more out of our dollar. But when we export all of these factories, or we rely on now just imports, I should say, for all these things that we used to produce and used to boost our economy and make the value of our dollar stronger, now the value of our dollar is weaker. Our dollar's not buying as much as it used to buy. So now we're stuck in this position where, one, we don't even have the jobs to give the factories, factory workers. We don't have those jobs because everything is being made in China. Everything's being made around the world. It's not just China, but a lot of stuff is being made in China. We've been talking about, and when I say we, I'm talking about Nancy Pelosi, Bernie Sanders, Donald Trump, been talking about it for 20, 30 years, maybe even more, actually almost 40 years, I believe, talking about tariffs, talking about how we need to make sure that we're using the tariffs in order to, I don't want to say weapon, but to discourage us importing so much and to emphasize and prioritize us actually producing in America. I remember Nancy Pelosi had her board up there where she was going over the difference between America and China and how much China makes off of America compared to what we're making off of them. So neither here nor there. I'm going off on a tangent. Let me bring it back. Wealthy Americans who run the country, who run the politicians, because in a capitalist society, money rules, cash is king, right? Might is right. What's might? The dollar. So therefore, the dollar exceeds the power of the politicians. So therefore, in this capitalist society, they're going to answer to the people with the most money, who want the cheapest labor, who want the labor that's not going to be asking for benefits, the labor that's just going to appreciate even being in America to the point where they're willing to work for whatever wage they can just to be in America. That's what the people with the money want. So, although I would point the finger in this case, the Democrats, it happened while the Democrats were here, but it's been happening for a while. But specifically with Biden in office, with the massive numbers that came through the border, there's no way to deport these people. Nick is right. If you're going to truly massively deport on the level that Donald Trump and Tom Homan were trying to make it seem like they were going to do, people are going to, unfortunately, U.S. citizens are going to be arrested and people may be harmed. whether it's protesters or whether it's the people that they're trying to deport, if you're trying to do it in an aggressive manner, especially as they showcased, and I don't even think they did it in an aggressive manner to actually aggressively go after a lot of people. They did it in an aggressive manner, like Nick said, to do it for the gram, to make a highlight reel. They didn't do it aggressively as far as attacking numbers. They did it aggressively as just making a show, just putting on a performance. But if you go about doing this in an aggressive manner, I don't think that it's going to make sense. You're always going to set yourself up to then have an aggressive response where people are rallying around it. And because the Democrats kind of already set you up for failure, now you're looking like the asshole, like where are your morals? Where's your care for these people? All these different things. The Democrats put you in a terrible position. They're not going to bring up and recall the fact that Obama was throwing people in cages. They're not going to bring that up. And we have to remember that our president is here to serve everybody. And I know that our presidents look at this country. They don't look at what they need to do in office for the next 30 years and how it will impact the country. They look at what can I do in these next 4 years to make me look as good as possible? So therefore, my legacy is as one of the greatest presidents of all time. That's what they care about. If Donald Trump cared about the country, then there's no way that he would have went about in Minneapolis deporting people without the support of the police. Figure it out. You're a deal maker, right? You pride yourself on the art of making the deal. So make a deal with Tim Walz, make a deal with the mayor over there, and figure out a way to where you can go in and deport people based on having their support. Figure it out. That's your job. Your job is to not just talk hot and spicy and then create a situation and now where you're running and all you did was make it seem like the protest actually worked. All you got to do is act a fool. And then the government, they'll just back up and leave. That is setting a precedent. And the reason why I don't like the precedent that is setting, because I looked at how all these BLM rallies in the past and all these other woke rallies, they use the people. All you're doing is using the people. You're setting the people up for failure. You got George Soros supporting all this stuff with hiring some of these professional protests, and it creates chaos in America. It creates a whole lot of hatred and division. So what did Trump now show? That it worked. So now what are we going to see more of when something happens and the people don't like it? Now you're going to see more rioting. Now you're going to see maybe even more extreme rioting. And one thing that I don't like, and I have to be very clear on, and to me, it shows a bit of immaturity when it comes to Nick. Bro, you don't have to say that you're happy that Alex Preddy died. I don't even know what that's about. I don't know what that's about. And all it does is it riles up Nick's base. It riles up a lot of y'all to now go about and say the same thing when deep down y'all know damn well that when you're supposed to stand on these Christian values or just human values, it doesn't even have to be Christian. It doesn't have to be any values. If there's any religion or any way of life that you're believing in, and it makes you say something out of your mouth like, oh, I'm glad that this person's dead, you're believing in the wrong thing, or you're just not following it correctly. You're misinterpreting what it's supposed to give you, in my opinion, or you're just saying that the religion is a demonic religion. But for you to say these type of things, come on, bro. You know that you got to do better than that. But this is where a lot of the performative rhetoric that Nick complains about when it comes to Donald Trump using it, he does it himself. He does it himself. We got to put on a show, all these different things. But perhaps the show is just more so approaching things from a Ron Paul perspective. Perhaps we shouldn't just be concerned about what can I do and what can I become the most radical in the next 4 years. How can I bring about the most radical change to be the guy known for this? Instead of just looking at it 30 years out like a Ron Paul. Now look at how we're looking at Ron Paul. Like he's a genius. Because he was more concerned with the direction of the country and where it will go long term compared to what can I do to trigger my base emotionally in the short term? Because that's what Democrats and Republicans both do. When you listen to Ron Paul and the things that he's talking about, you don't even know whether he's a Democrat or Republican. He's just talking about real problems that Americans are currently facing and the potential of what those problems can turn into later on down the line. It doesn't even sound Democrat, Republican, right versus left. It sounds like common sense understanding of putting the American people first and doing what's in their best interest, I should say. We don't have that. We don't have that. So we can argue back and forth about the deportations. I definitely am on board with Nick when he's saying that it sets a bad precedent, because I've been one of those people, and this kind of proved me wrong. I say riots and protests don't do anything. They don't do anything. So that kind of has me looking at this situation sideways, where it's like, was it even about this? Like, was this all just for show? Was this all just to create, like, to contribute to the larger chaos? Like, what was this really about? Because I've never seen protests or riots, make this much of a difference to where ICE, especially how tough they were talking, Tom Homan and Donald Trump, now they're just tucking tail and running. It's almost like I'm looking at it in disbelief, like, damn. And now, what are the Democrats and liberals thinking? Yeah, they won. Or maybe Donald Trump feels like he can't take any more heat due to what's going on with the Epstein files right now. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. But when things don't make sense and we have sensible people, or people that are supposed to be sensible, that's when I take a step back and try to look at the bigger picture. Like, hold up, how are we all getting played and manipulated with this situation? So I don't know exactly how. Maybe it's to distract us or to set us up to be okay with it. I don't know. It's so much going on at one time. It's hard to keep up almost. It's hard to keep up with the level of idiocy. Is that the right word? Or idiotic behavior that we see happening with the people that are supposed to be running our country. It's hard to keep up. It's almost like you turn into an idiot just trying to make sense of a lot of this stuff. So we got to figure this stuff out, because it's hard to keep up. Matter of fact, you can't make sense out of things that don't make any sense. That's what it really comes down to. You can't make sense out of things that don't make any sense. And that's exactly what we're witnessing happen. So we're going to figure this thing out, because we have to figure it out. But I think we need to take a step back, not get caught up in all the emotional right versus left. Once again, we keep saying it, but just take a step back and just say, okay, what do we need to do? What do we need to do to put we the people in the best possible position? I think Nick had a great suggestion on yesterday's show where he was talking about, hey, we need to figure out this third party solution. Because even when he goes on to talk about JD Vance, it really is that, and this is what we have to be careful of. Everybody will stand up right now and say, oh yeah, JD Vance has no shot. I'm not voting for him. Until Gavin Newsom is marched out on the other side of the stage and he's debating JD Vance. And then we tend to forget about all of the BS that is going on in this term with this administration, as JD Vance is the vice president. We forget about that because the mob is fickle. So we'll forget about all that. And then once again, we'll repeat the cycle, right? They'll feed us with all the indoctrination, manipulation, propaganda, whatever they need to. And then now we're back in the same position that we were in with this election, the previous election, the previous election, the previous election, where we're just voting for the lesser of two evils. So it's going to be interesting to see how all this stuff plays out. I don't know. And Nick brought up a good point with JD Vance. Where are you? Where you at? You were front and center when it was easy to get on stage and do the, go to Charlie Kirk's funeral and put all that stuff out. And when I say it was easy, I mean, it's because, okay, the country's behind it. Your party's behind it. But now with Donald Trump moving the way he is, his party, his followers, his base isn't even behind a lot of this stuff. Where's JD Vance? You're out there on camera with Erica Kirk's running her fingers through your hair and you're feeling yourself. Where are you now? Do you agree with everything that's going on? Do you agree with us supporting all this stuff with Israel, Palestine, Iran? When those messages came out, it didn't seem like those private messages, right? When they came out, it didn't seem like you were on board with this stuff. Where are you? Where are you? Are you just trying to hide, save face because you're not agreeing with any of this stuff? This is going to come back to bite you, bro. Maybe you more than anybody else. Maybe you more than anybody else. And I don't know if Peter Thiel and Elon Musk are going to be able to save you. And when I say that, as I'm saying it, yes, they will, because money saves everything, right? Isn't that the point that Nick was trying to make with clavicular in the beginning of the show? So maybe he knows more than what I know, and maybe he'll be fine. Maybe this won't be a big deal. Maybe it won't be a situation, but I really hope that we remember all of this stuff. I really hope that we remember all this stuff and hold JD, Pam Bondi, Donald Trump, Lutnick, Stephen Miller, Cash Patel, Dan Bongino, all of them. Let's hold all of them accountable. Matter of fact, if I was Elon could have just not said anything and just stayed out of the way and not tried to befriend Trump again, like we saw him doing it. Because now it's like we were looking at him when he was doing that, like, bro, you're a sucker. Like, you're just trying to get back in. Like, even with all that money, you still trying to be cool with Trump, doing all this stuff to be cool with Trump. Even though I thought what Elon did was out of pocket and just emotional with even writing that X post. But if you're going to write it, stand on it. So therefore, Elon could have had a whole lot of people who did not like him previously actually fall in love with this guy, because he would have been known as the only guy that stood up to Donald Trump and exposed all these files and stuff. Even with him being in it, he exposed it. You know what I mean? He could have had that heroic type of energy. Now it's over. All of their entire, it's all over. It's all over. So they can keep, doing stuff for the gram, putting on all this performance-based, giving us this performance-based rhetoric and all that other stuff, bro. We're seeing what's happening right in front of our faces. We're seeing it, and we'll see how the midterms reflect a lot of their actions so far in this presidency with this administration. All right, so I'm gonna let y'all go. Y'all know what it is, man. Like, subscribe, turn your notifications on. Shout out to our big bro, Robert, who always reminds us we control the algorithm. Don't let the algorithm control us, all right? So on that note, I'll let y'all go. As always, my bias may come into play. Y'all always call me out. I don't even know why I act like I got to give y'all the green light or tell y'all to call me out on where I may be off, but it's appreciated. That's why I always let y'all know. I'm not just asking to ask. I like having different perspectives and check my views and check my stances, because that's what has allowed me to grow thus far. So I like it. And I lean into it. So on that note, I'll let y'all go. I'll see y'all soon.
TB, GI, TC. It's the black guy in the corner, but they'd rather see a nigga on the corner. They say I'm stealing Nick's clips like I'm stealing Nick's chick, not knowing that I hit him first week for the lick. I said, Nick, I could post here while you post there. Let's run the ads up, then let's meet up over there. Let's figure out a split that's honorable and fair. Tell me where you trying to take it. Bro, I'll meet you there. 1600 Penn, Wash, DC. Swear I saw the vision riding through the DMV. I envision prayers, but I could do VP. Hillbilly, L&G, fuck, I look like JD. Shout out my cheat code, Dave and Karen raised me. And my big bro, a nuclear family.
And they don't like that. Strong fathers in the crib, BLM for that. LBJ society created all that. Victimhood mentality, I can't embrace that. And everything they taught in school, assume it's all cap. Everything I said I'd be, I am that. Everything I said I'd be, I am that. Everything I said I'd be, I am that. Ain't no introduction, just some fun facts. In case you were wondering, I am that.
I know you heard me hit it 3 times for Dr. Umar. Shout out to Umar, man. We ain't kicking nobody when they down. And shout out to everybody that continues to show love, support, appreciating the message that I'm giving y'all, along with the bro Nick's message. We gonna keep pushing, man. And shout out to the haters too, cause y'all in the comments heavy too. y'all the ones that gave me the inspiration to create this song. They kept saying like, who's the random black guy in the corner? I am.